let's be honest, we all know that when recorders go home, the moms in the no Facebook groups are going to be popping. So let's talk about what we can do to ease that blow a little bit.
You're listening to That Music Podcast with Bryson Tarbett, the curriculum designer and educational consultant behind That Music Teacher and the Elementary Music Summit. Each week, Bryson and his guests will dive into the reality of being an elementary music teacher and how music can truly be transformative in the lives of the students you serve. Show notes and resources mentioned in this episode can be found at thatmusicteacher.com.
Hello and welcome back to That Music Podcast. Today we are going to continue our conversation about recorders in the elementary music classroom by talking about something that I think is really important, which is getting the parents and the grown-ups and the families on board. Talking about how we can get that families to understand the recorder, to tolerate the recorder in some cases, but also really to set everyone up for success along the way. So today we're going to be chatting about this because it's something that we've been chatting about. Again, the last couple episodes, we've really been talking about how the recorder kind of gets a bad rap sometimes and how we can use it in a purposeful way to make sure that it is enjoyable and fun and highly engaging. And we're going to continue that conversation now. Without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into strategy number 1 on how we can make sure that everyone is on the same page and everyone is set up for success. So strategy number 1 is kind of giving a little bit of an introduction letter. First of all, I want you to create a friendly, a positive letter, email you're sending it home, send it home any way you can, physical, send it on Class Dojo, send an email, literally send it like by carrier pigeon. But what I want you to do is really frame the recorder as a new adventure. Talk a little bit about the why. Think about the educational value, the fine motor skills, the breath control, reading music, connecting it to history. Talk a little bit about some of the supports that you'll be providing to some students that might need them. Talk a little bit about what it'll look like. Because let's be honest, this is a great opportunity for advocacy. And so many parents might not understand what it's going to look like. And it might be a case of, when they were in school, it was a very different vibe. And you want to set the tone about what this is going to look like. But I also want you to set some expectations. So first of all, I want you to make sure that you are clear that the recorders will have an opportunity to go home if that's the policy, if that's something that you do, and that you are going to work on creating expectations with the students that the recorder is an instrument, not a noisemaker. You're going to give them specific things to practice at home if they have the opportunity. It's not for annoying the cat or jumping on a trampoline and doing flips with it. Really set those expectations clear and in writing from the get-go. I think it's also important for us to talk a little bit about the safety and care of the instrument. Now, I'm going to be honest, I'm not a woodwind player. But I have to laugh sometimes in these Facebook groups when we have people that are saying, well, oh my gosh, you put it through the dishwasher? You just wiped off all the cork grease. I'm like, I have never cork greased a recorder in my life and I've survived. It's fine. And for me, I always have the students remove the little, the cleaning wands because it's going to be a whole thing. They're going to get things shoved into it. It's going to turn into, fling across the room. For me, we're not playing it crazy enough that they're going to need to do full-on cleaning, but give some instructions a little bit about safety and care, like, hey, make sure you're not putting anything into it. This is how you set it up. The big one is make sure you keep it away from dogs, because I don't know what it is, but every single year I at least have 2 students whose recorders get eaten by a dog. So put that in there. And then I also want you to kind of talk about what I call a musical peace plan, which is essentially giving grown-ups and families some tips, like designating a practice time or practice space to minimize household noise. We'll talk about that in a little bit because I think it's really important. Strategy number 2, and I think this is the biggest one, and I'll be honest, I didn't make this one up. I learned it from someone, and I can't for the life of me remember who, but I want you to delay sending the recorders home. So the way that it always worked for me is every student got a recorder, and they, at the end of the year, they were theirs. They could keep them forever. But I didn't send them home from the very beginning. Because what's going to happen? If you send recorders home the very first day, they don't know how to play anything yet. They're just going to make noise. And that's not going to set anyone up for success. So for me, I make it very clear to my students and to their families that I will not be sending home recorders when they first get them. We're going to have a minute. We're going to need a minute to learn some things, to work together in the class before I get them sent home, because I want them to have a solid foundation. So for me, the kind of arbitrary thing that I said is I will not be sending home recorders until we as a class know 3 songs. Now, to be fair, they might be 3 songs that only have B and A, or even just B, or maybe even B A G, got hot cross buns in there. But I want them to be able to play 3 recognizable songs before I send them home, because I don't want them to just go play. I want them to have something specific to practice and something to share. Because again, if you just give them the recorders and they don't know how to use it, they're going to turn into noisemakers, and that's not going to be fun for everyone. This ensures that the instrument doesn't kind of go home as a toy. It really shows that this is an instrument, and this is like something that we're actively working for. So this is great because it creates a little bit less chaos when these get sent home, and it allows the students to show something and to be proud about the work that they've already done when they bring it home and they get to show their families. So once the instruments are able to go home, I always tell my student that you are responsible for making sure you have an instrument when it's a music day. And because we were on a weird rotation, so it was every 3 days, so sometimes it's Monday, sometimes it's all that, I just said, if you're bringing your recorder home, put it in your book bag. If you are not actively practicing, it needs to be back in your book bag. So if you practice, where are you going to put it when you're done? Not in your bed. I don't care if you're going to dinner. Put it back in your book bag, and then you can go to dinner. That way, one, we're kind of getting away from the dogs that eat the recorders, but also we're always making sure that's with us, because there might be some weird schedules going on, and there might be a music day that wasn't a scheduled music day. So we kind of use that as an opportunity to build responsibility. Now, in my classroom, I had a class set of recorders. I'll be honest, the class set had been around the block for a minute. They were clean. I always make sure I clean them every year. Then we sanitize them after every use, but they weren't great. they lived a life. So my students didn't really want to play them, but I made it very clear that, hey, if you don't have your recorder, you're going to have to borrow borrow one of the class sets, and just figure it out, right? And some of my students said, oh, I didn't bring that. All right, go grab one. And I think that's good to kind of show that responsibility. But I also think it's important, especially in the population that I taught, that I didn't just say, well, you don't get to play today. Because I don't think that's helpful, because sometimes it's out of their control. And even if it is in their control, that's just going to cause classroom management issues half the time anyway. So what can we do to make it a little bit more accessible? Have some extra ones available. Another thing that I made really clear with my students when we went home, when the recorders go home, is that I should not see the recorders or hear the recorders anywhere except for the music room. We're not bringing them on the hallways. We're not bringing these on the bus. And I said, hey, if I hear that, we're going to have an issue. We're going to have a talk, because, do you think it's going to be helpful to have everyone on their bus have a recorder? No, that's not safe. And kind of talk about why, very quickly, but set those expectations and hold them to it. If you see a student, there was once I was out on recess duty and all of a sudden I hear hot cross buns. I'm like, all right, well, that's fantastic. You sound great, but why do you have your recorder? That's not what we're doing. That's just going to end. It's going to end poorly. So set those expectations and hold those expectations. And finally, strategy 4, I think, is the biggest one, which is establishing a you're the boss policy. I'm fully aware that there are some reasons why a student may not be able to practice at home. So first of all, I never expected my students to practice. I always encouraged them to practice. But also, I taught at a school where a lot of my students really struggled. So I know that it would not be responsible for me to expect every single student to be able to practice every single day. That's just not going to happen. That's not the lives that they're living. But I always encouraged it. But I also said, hey, in the music classroom, I am in charge. Am I in charge at your house? And they always say, yes. I said, no, I'm not. I'm not in charge of your house. Who's in charge of your house? And my grown-ups, my mom, my dad, my grandma. And I said, yes, your grown-ups are always in charge. So if you're ever practicing and they say it's time to be done, that's the end of conversation. That's the end of it. If for whatever reason, your baby sister is sleeping or whatever, you can't practice, and they say that, listen to them. If for whatever reason they say, I don't want you practicing, period, I don't want you to take your recorder home, they're in charge. It is their home, their rules, and that's okay. We're going to still make progress in the music classroom. It's all going to be fine. and really set the expectation that with students and with families, that they are in charge. And I want them to, you can't use the excuse of, well, my teacher says I need to practice hot cross buns. No, it's 10 p.m. Go to bed. Listen to your grown-ups. And I think that's really helpful because it alleviates that parental stress, and kind of removes an argument out of the play. So that's the big one that I always give my students, especially when I send the recorders home, that in the music classroom, I'm in charge. At home, not my domain. I'm not in charge. So we have to follow those expectations that are set by those grown-ups. I hope that you've learned a couple of different strategies to kind of get some parents and families a little bit more on board. Maybe it's keeping the recorders a little bit until they learn a few songs. Maybe it's just opening that line of communication, celebrating success, whatever. My whole goal for you over this whole series, all of these December podcasts, is use the recorder. I think it is one of the best tools we have. I mean, where else can you get an instrument for $2 to $3 that a student can play a lot of music on, fairly simple. It's accessible. It's, you can get the cool colors. I got my little green one. You can get it in a way that makes it engaging and fun and joyful. And for me, that's something I'm never going to stop doing. If I'm in a classroom, I'm teaching the recorder. Even now, when I'm not in the classroom, I'm still preaching the good word of the recorder because I think it's that important. And I really think that it's something that I've seen students unlock and light up in ways that I've never thought I'd see because of the recorder, because everyone was learning something brand new. Those students that might have, they might be in 4th grade and they're still struggling to read. They know that they're behind. But when we get into the recorder, it's brand new for everyone. So everyone's at that level. And that is my favorite part. And that is why I will never stop teaching the recorder. So that's all for this year, 2025. How are we already done? We are going to take a few weeks off from the podcast to recharge and to regroup, but we are going to be back in January with some huge announcements, so you are not going to want to miss it. So be sure to subscribe wherever you are watching or listening to this episode. And until next year, keep making beautiful music. And as always, thank you so much for making a difference in the lives of the students that you teach.